Hey, Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking. Put them trade tables and seat backs are full upright position as we do the Back in Black edition for Forgotten Realms Limited. We're talking about draft and sealed, guys, and we're going to go over all the black cards today and what ones are good, what ones are bad, and what should you be playing and which ones should you be avoiding. So, with all that said, remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers. Really appreciate any help you guys can get. Remember, comment down below, like, subscribe. They got to feed that YouTube algorithm to help get the channel some views and help support the channel stuff. And with that said, box openings start Monday, so be ready for that. So let's get started, guys, and get moving through this. So we'll start off first. We have Loth the Spider Queen. Obviously, it's a mythic. It's a planeswalker. 5 mana for a 4. You can draw a card, lose a life, create 2 spiders. It gets loyalty by creatures dying. This thing is a powerhouse. It will be killed if you play it, so be ready to protect it. 2 spiders let you do that. It's just hard. You have to play this if you have black in your deck. It's just too good. The -8 seems fine. But to be honest with you guys, just cranking out the 2 spiders and drawing cards every turn for free by losing 1 life is going to put you so far ahead that she has to be dealt with. And if she's not dealt with, you will run away with the game. So, not too much really needs to be said about that. So, next, moving right along, we have the Dracolich, the 4 mana 5/2 with flash and flying. When it enters the battlefield, it enters tapped. You may cast it from your graveyard if a creature died this turn that was not a creature with this same name. Again, powerhouse card. A 5/2 that flies. It dies real easy, guys. I'm not going to say it doesn't. But it does come back rather easy as well. So this is an easy card to play. Plus a 5/2 flyer. There's not a lot of flying in the set. We talk about that a lot. This could be a powerhouse. It could be a 4-turn kill just because it's only 5. Plus, with the ability to flash it in, you can get a free 5 damage in by sneaking it in at the end of a turn. And voila, 5/2 flyer. And it's all millhouse from there. So, moving on next. We have Esrek the Arc Lich, so a black and 2 for a 5/5. When he enters the battlefield, if you haven't completed the Tomb Annihilation, you have to put him back in your hand. But whenever he attacks, when you put him back in your hand, you have to venture to the dungeon. So it makes it really easy for you just to venture through the Tomb of Annihilation to get this on the field. And when you do, whenever he attacks, he gives you a 2/2 black zombie. This thing is also a powerhouse for 3 mana. Obviously, another mythic. You have to play it. There's no reason not to. So, with that said, we'll just move right along because these are the easy cards. The Book of Vile Darkness. So, this is a great card to snag in a draft because it's worth a little bit of money. But to be honest, if you can't snag, the Eye of Vecna and the Hand of Vecna, this is going to do nothing for you. Losing 2 mana gets you a 2/2 black zombie token. That's cool. But I really don't think. It only happens 10 times. It's 3 black. Can you play it? Yeah. But honestly, this card's not going to do anything for you at all. Because it also says at the beginning of your end step. So if they punch you in the face and you lose 2 life, when it's not your turn, you're not getting a zombie. So this is not a card I would expect to play unless you get really lucky in a draft or a sealed event. Asmodeus the Archfiend. So this is an interesting card. So 6 mana for a 6/6. That's right on par. Binding Contract. Whenever you draw a card, you exile top card of your library face down instead. 3 mana to draw 7 cards, which means 7 go exiled. 1 black, return them all to your hand, and you lose life for each card. This seems really cool, depending on what you're doing. But to be honest with you, I'm really fearful of the pay 1 life to draw a card instead of getting your natural draw step, because that could kill you in a damage race. Also, the last time I played this, I was playing heavy blue with lots of draw, and the last thing I wanted to do is play this for 6 and then come across a draw spell and have to pay 2 life for it as well. So if you want to play it as a vanilla 6/6, it's fine. Honestly, I don't think I would play it in draft or in sealed. Just because the fact that you have to pay for every draw could be very detrimental to you in the draft format. Now, with that said, if you can do something about it, have a way to gain life, sure, go for it. But I'm really fearful of using this card. I just don't think it's good enough for draft because the draw thing is too big of a drawback. We have the Forsworn Paladin, 1 black for a 1/1 menace. That already makes it good, but the ability for black and colorless to pay 1 life and make a treasure token is devastating. Also, the ability for a black and 2 repeatedly to target a creature, get +2/+0 in a turn, and if you use treasure for it, the creature gains the death touch as well. This card is a powerhouse. Swing in with tokens or anything else, and if they don't block it, kill them by pumping it. If they do block it, and you have a small creature attacking into a big creature, give it +2/+0. And if that doesn't kill it, use one of the treasures you've already created with this creature or another item. Give it death touch to guarantee it's going to die. This thing on the turn 1 is a powerhouse. Definitely draft it. Definitely play it. Westgate Regent, um, 5 mana for a 4/4 flyer with ward of discarding a card. That's good enough for me, guys, in this format. This thing's a powerhouse. But whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. That means this is literally a 3-turn clock at 20 life. You punch them once, they go to 16. Now this guy's an 8/8. You punch him again. Now it's a 16/16. Even if he gains life, this is still a 3-turn clock. This card is amazing. If you're not drafting this, then you shouldn't be playing black. And if you're not playing black, you should be drafting this so someone else doesn't get it, because this thing is devastating. Next, we have the white. It's a black and 1 colorless for a 3/2. Enters a battlefield tap, has life drain. Whenever a creature dealt damage by the white dies, create a 2/2 black zombie copen that's tapped and exile that card. If you're playing green, this is going to be your best friend because green has the ability to fight spells, and by making the white fight other things or just using it to direct damage something else, can get you 2/2 zombies. Even at that, if you don't have any other way to do that, 2 mana for a 3/2 that you can block or force your opponent to block and get a 2/2 out of it while killing one of their cards. This thing is just a powerhouse. Again, it's a rare. You have to play it. Next, we have Gelatinous Cube. I mean, what else do you say? 4 mana for a 4/3. When it comes into play, it removes a creature, and then you can kill the creature by dissolving it. If you bounce this, put it back in play later, you get to exile more stuff. Yeah, this card is just a powerhouse. If you have a Gelatinous Cube, you should be playing black of some kind. Sphere of Annihilation. So I found this card to be very good. It is hard to use sometimes because it exiles cards in graveyards and everything that's a creature or artifact of X or less. But if you do a board wipe, this be your boy. And it's in black, it's not in white. Just remember, if you're going to use something like this, have a couple cards that are high casting cost. That way you can sphere for 4 or 5 and still have a big creature out that's not going to die to the sphere at the beginning of your next upkeep. But this is definitely a powerhouse. I definitely suggest playing it. It's easily a 2-for-1 and most times 3 or 4-for-1. Plus, you can wipe out your entire team, your entire opponent's treasure hoard if he has a bunch of treasures. And if he wants to use the treasures to cast things, this is going to kill the things that he casts, so he's better off not to even do that. So, yeah, this thing is a powerhouse and definitely should be drafted. Again, another great rare. Vorpal Sword. 1 black, it equips for 2 black to give +2/+0 and Death Touch. That's a powerhouse on any kind of creature, especially little ones that are chumping. And once you get to 8 mana, they have to block, or you're just going to kill them. Again, great card, has to be drafted. If you have it in limited, definitely play it. Check for traps. Great discard spell. You look at the entire opponent's hand, you pick 1 card from it. It may cost you a life, it may cost them a life, depending on whether or not it's an instant. Great removal in a slow format like this one is. This is a great way to get those really high-powered, high casting cost cards out of your opponent's hands before you have to try to deal with them on the board. Next uncommon is the Ray of Revealment. 1 black to give a creature -4/-1 until end of turn. If it's white, it's -4/-4. This card is okay. If you are limited on removal in your deck, this is a starter because it can kill things or make things small enough for you to kill. Other than that, definitely a sideboard card so that the minute you run across the white deck, you can just kill things for 1 black. Powerhouse, definitely draft it, but remember, it's probably going to be sideboard bait, so don't take it early unless you have no other choice and need removal really bad. Demigorgon Clutches. This is your typical 3 mana. Opponent discards 2 cards, but they also mill 2 and lose 2 life. This works really good with Tasha's Hideous Laughter decks. But in general, 3 mana, discard 2 cards in a slow format like this. This is a pretty decent card. I definitely suggest running at least one of them. On turn 3, popping this off on your opponent can be devastating to them. Reaper's Talisman. Again, another great uncommon. I like this one a lot because for 1 black, it goes to the field on turn 1. You can lay a creature. Then when you start equipping your creatures, if they attack alone, they lose 2 and you gain 2, which can give you a good life buffer. It's a 4-point swing. Plus, the creature has Death Touch. So if you put it on a 2/2 or a 1/1, they're not going to block it because it's going to kill anything they block it with. So they're going to take whatever damage it is. So if you keep it on like a 2/2 or a 1/1, you're dealing 3 damage a turn to them. You're gaining 2 life. More often than not, you'll win that race. So this card is a powerhouse. I wouldn't have more than one in my deck, only because once you get 2 out, yeah, the effect does stack, but then that's another card you have that's not a creature to equip. And you got to be careful having too much equipment on enough creatures. Lightfoot Rogue, again, powerhouse, 2/1 for 2. Basically, it says it has sneak attack. Whenever you attack with it, you roll a dice. It gains Death Touch. Sometimes it gains +1 in Death Touch. Sometimes it gains +3 and First Strike in Death Touch. This thing is a powerhouse. Terrible to block with, but you put a Reaper's Talisman on this bad boy, and you can just start going to town. Next, we have Death Priest of Merkle. 2 black and 2 for a 2/2. Skeletons, vampires, zombies you control get +1/+1. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, pay 1 to get a 1/1 black zombie, or black skeleton, I'm sorry, which would be a 2/2 because of this guy. This is a really good powerhouse card, but it's only good if you have lots of removal. Because that way you can remove a creature on your turn, spend 1 colorless, and make a creature. It basically means that if you have if you have 1 or 2 of these and nothing but removal, you literally can make creatures to kill your opponent by killing their creatures. Which is not a bad game plan when, it's limited. It's a creature fight. But if you don't have a whole lot of ways to remove your opponent's creatures, since this has to sit on the field for the effect to happen, they probably will block accordingly, so it makes it not good. So make sure you have the removal to play this. Drider, so 5 mana for a 4/3 of reach. This is playable, although it's very on the edge, because if you damage to your opponent for 4 damage, you get 2/1 Black Spider with Menace and Reach, which is amazing. But for 5 mana, it dies really easy, and it can be very costly because it's very easy to remove. If you have no other choice, you can run this, but I would keep this in a sideboard in case you come across a deck with a lot of flyers. If you have to start one, I'd probably only start just one. So the Grim Wanderer. So I've had a decent experience with this card. 5/3 for 2. You flash it when something dies. Now the problem I have with this is sometimes it's hard to make this card work. And what I mean by that is sometimes it's stuck in your hand because you just have removal spells, which means you have to have removal spell mana plus 2 mana for this if you don't have something to put on the board and trade with. Plus, as a 5/3, it does die easy in the creature fight. I found more often than not I end up taking this card out of my decks. So I would probably caution against running it. If you happen to get one, great. If you need the creature, but more often than not, for me, I would not run this card, honestly. Skullport Merchant. This thing is a powerhouse. Every time I've played it, this goes in any deck I have that has black in it. If I'm putting a swamp in my deck, I'm putting this in it. A black and 2 for a 1/4. It's a great blocker. Plus, it makes a treasure token, so it ramps you for a turn 5 spell on turn 4. And at worst case scenario, late game, when that treasure comes in, spend an extra 2 mana and start drawing a card. Or sacrifice your creatures. We already talked about blue with Mind Flare, right? When I played that blue black deck, I had a Mind Flare. I put the Merchant out on turn 3, and it never died because it's not a threatening card. It's not something they want to kill, right? Well, until they realize that, on turn 7, when the game goes late and I'm digging for some cancers, all of a sudden I lay a Mind Flare, take their creature, and they're like, oh, well, I'll kill your Mind Flare. And I'm like, well, in response, I'll sacrifice your creature to the Merchant and then sacrifice my Mind Flayer. So now I've drawn 2 cards, killed 2 of your cards. It's just an amazing card. Plus, by itself, just the ability to block and sack creatures to draw cards, sack your treasures to draw cards. Just a powerhouse, no matter how you shake your stick at it. Black Dragon, 7 mana for 4/4 flyer that gives -3/-3. This card has been good against me when I've played sometimes, but really for 7 mana, I would want more. If you have no other choice, this is a good option as it does fly. But on the norm, I actually don't draft this card. I draft other things that are cheaper, that have better abilities. Or I draft in my splash color, because 7's just way too much, and just getting 3 mana or -3/-3 won't kill most things that are really dangerous. And just a 4/4 flyer for 7, one of those needs to be bigger for it to be worth it for me. Dungeon Crawler. So it's a great card for 1. It's a 2/1. When you complete a dungeon, you can put it back in your hand. Um, Honestly, I've stayed away from this card because late game it's bad. Sometimes completing a dungeon ain't easy depending on how your deck is established. Plus, it comes into play tapped. Like, it's got way too many drawbacks for me. Plus, with Magic Missile in the format where they can just do one damage to it and zap it off the field, along with lots of other spells that do one damage. Or even a black card we're going to see here shortly that gives -1/-1 counters. Like, I think it's too much of a liability, and I don't think I would start it. Power word kill. What can I say? It kills everything but angels. It kills everything except angels, demons, and dragons. So sometimes it's to sit in your hand because their dragons are whooping your butt. But more often than not, this is just a flat kill spell, and it's just good enough to be that. So you should play it. Grim Bounty, one of the best removal spells in the set and mainly in black. It kills creatures and planeswalkers, plus gives you a treasure token, which can ramp you to a turn 6 play on turn 5 or anything else. Great removal. I highly suggest drafting it and playing it. And the reason you play it is because of things like this. Deadly Dispute. This is my common all-star. People are really undervaluing this card. I would almost first draft this over some rares. Matter of fact, I would first draft this over some rares. Because it says sacrifice a creature or artifact, you draw 2 cards, create a treasure token. Now, yes, it has a hard thing to get going because you gotta have something to sack, but because you can sack an artifact, for example, if you use Grim Bounty to kill a creature, or a 3 mana, the 3 mana card that's a 1/4 that makes treasure, or anything to make a treasure, you literally can sack the treasure to this to make a treasure so you don't lose anything, and then just draw 2 cards. So it's a black and a colorless, draw 2 cards. It is the best draw spell in the set, hands down. I don't care what you say, and it's for 2 mana. And if you're stealing your opponent's creatures, what better thing to do than sack them, draw cards, and get treasures? Like, this is an all-star, hands down. Trust me, if you play it and you play it right, you will love this card, and it will do nothing but the best things for you. Horde Robber, another great uncommon paired with the previous cards. Make the treasures, sacrifice it, draw a card, plus being able to ramp. More often than not, they're not going to block the Horde Robber just because it's so small, and that's their first mistake. If I had a 2/2, I would not attack for fear of this thing hitting me. If I had a 3/1, if I had a 3/3, I would not attack because for fear of this hitting me. Because on turn 3, if this hits me, that's a 4-drop. That's the Grim spell we just talked about where they get another treasure and you remove a creature. Like, it just starts a chain reaction, and they start ramping out really big things really fast. This card is really, really powerful. Thieves' Tools, like with all the other previous cards, 2 mana, it gives you a treasure so you can ramp up to 4, plus the ability to equip it so creatures can't be blocked, like the Horde Robber or anything else. Just a powerhouse card. I wouldn't run more than one, maybe 2, if you have a lot of small powered creatures, because you got to make sure you got good enough removal, because if they lay a big creature, they'll outrace you. Eye of the Beholder. This is a great removal spell, but it costs way too much. There's better removal spells, especially in black. This, for me, is a last resort draft pick or limited use card. If you don't have any removal in the 2 colors or 3 colors you're playing, I highly suggest not doing 3 and just doing 2. I would not play a 3rd color and use this as removal just to keep my mana right. But if I've got enough removal spells, in my personal opinion, the first spell, and I need to take some stuff out, and I want to keep creatures, I probably take out Eye of the Beholder to the sideboard, because 11/11 is great, 6 mana, not so hot. So Vampire Spawn, it's an okay card. A black and 2 for a 2/3 blocks well. They lose 2, you gain 2. I normally don't run it unless I'm running a deck that needs to gain life or do damage to the opponent. Like if you have some Thief picks and you want to start a good race. That's about the only time I would draft something like this and use it. But it does have its place if you have the right style of deck. Next, we have the Ghoul here. This Ghoul is pretty good. 2 mana for a 2/1. I normally don't play it, only because you can only sacrifice 2 at once to make it a 4/3, which is still very killable at the cost of another creature. I would rather have a Horde Robber over this, or something else that I don't have to sack creatures to, because this to me is just not threatening enough and doesn't do enough, especially as a 2/1. So Herald of Hadar, 5 mana for a 4/4. The 6 mana ability to lose 2 life and gain treasure and gain 2 life is really powerful. I would run at least one of these, maybe 2, just to have some reach late game in case you get into a board stall, to get your life total up high enough that you can sacrifice some creatures, get a couple swings in, and if nothing else, you just kill them outright with it. Hired Hexblade. So I kind of have mixed emotions. If you don't have enough small creatures, this will do. I've played this several games on turn 2 without a treasure, and I couldn't draw a card just to have a 2/2 creature. But often those are in decks where there's a red spell or a white card or even a blue card I wanted to equip to it. Um, like a torch or something to make it a 3/3 and start going through the dungeon, or give it flying and blue, so you can go through the dungeon. It's a good filler space card with some high upside on the low end on the end game, because if you have a treasure sitting around, this is still in your deck. Don't use the treasure, that way you can draw a card off of it. And you don't have to use it to draw a card, so you don't have to lose the 2 life. It's got a lot of potential. It's great filler. I often try not to use it, but I normally end up sticking 1 or 2 in my deck if I'm short on creatures. Precipitous Drop. So 3 mana for -2/-2, Venture in the Dungeon. Great removal spell. As I talked about before, lots of stuff has 2 and 1 toughness. This is easily a kill spell, plus the ability to venture into the dungeon. This is a draftable, playable removal card in any way, shape, or form. And worst case scenario, you shrink something down so small that it's not even damaging anymore. And you still get to venture to the dungeon. So, and if you complete the dungeon, you could actually kill the creature off. Next, Chattering Skeletons. This is probably one of the best filler cards that they have. Plus 4 mana, 4/3, it lets you venture. Is really good, especially in black, since you can do things like get it back out of your graveyard and replay it to kill something else of theirs and venture to the dungeon. So I would play this card, especially at the 4 slot. Black doesn't have a whole lot going on, and this is a good slot for it. As mentioned, Fate's Reversal, venture to the dungeon, pick up a creature. A great combo with this and Chattering Skeletons. Plus, get those powerhouse cards back out of your graveyard that are creatures and replay them while venturing into the dungeon is just house. This card is amazing. I would definitely play 1, 2, maybe even 3, depending on the deck layout. Because you have cards like this, Yanti Fangblade, 3 mana for a 2/2 lets you venture into the dungeon with Death Touch. If I've got 3 or 4 Fates Reversals in my deck and 2 or 3 Fangblades, or maybe 2 Fangblades, I'll send this bad boy in on suicide missions all day long. Pick him back up, venture in the dungeon, play him again, and just force them to keep blocking while I venture into the dungeon, and put them on a really fast clock. Shambling Gas. This is a decent card as a 1-drop because it makes a treasure or -1/-1. This is what I was talking about earlier. It kills a lot of small things. I wouldn't run 2 of them. I probably only run 1. I hope it was in my opening hand or my opening first 10 draws. Just so I could, maybe chump with it to get that treasure, or chump with it to kill a 2/2. So it's okay. Feign Death. This is a powerhouse. Using this on any creature you got, like Chattering Skeletons or your um, your Yanti, so they all come back bigger. Plus, you get the effect of killing a creature, or with Chattering Skeletons, killing their creature and venturing into the dungeon. Then it comes back as a 5/4. Just this thing is phenomenal. Yeah, Yanti Fangblade's on here twice. Interesting. So Zombie Ogre. This is a powerhouse. Great top level card for black as far as topping out your curve. Because if you're going to do a whole lot of Fang Blading and getting it back out of the graveyard, or feigning death in it and forcing your opponent to make blocks that's going to kill their creatures, at the end step when you venture through the dungeon, you can just really start going ham and really put them in a tight spot. So 1 or 2 of these is pretty sweet. Definitely a powerhouse. Baleful Beholder is okay. I mean, it's a 6/5 for 6. If you've got nothing else on your top end and you want something big, this is okay. Giving creatures menace can get you a kill. Each opponent sacrificing an artifact can be a thing as well. But I often don't run this because for 6 mana it just doesn't do enough for me. And the stuff it does is so conditional that I almost always want to sideboard it in instead of actually start with it. Next we have the old Manticore. So 4 mana, 2/1 flying flash. This is okay. I only use it when I have to, just because in this set, if you're damaging something, it's probably going to die anyway, especially in black. Now, it's a good setup to have maybe 1 or 2 of these, probably just 1 at the most if you have a Horde Robber, just so when they do the whole, well, I'm not going to let you hit me, I'll block with my 2/2 or my 1/4 or whatever, then you can Manticore it, you can flash in the Manticore to kill it after the Horde Robber's done its 1 damage to it without dying. Devour Intellect. This is great in the black deck, especially if you have lots of ways to generate treasures, because it's just basically a Thoughtseize if you have a treasure. It's amazing. And if you don't have a treasure, wait till they played most of their good spells, like on turn 4, maybe turn 5. They most of their hand is empty. They played almost all their lands. Now they just got their bombs left in their hand. You're just like, hey, get rid of one of them really good cards. So I like it a lot. I play at least 1 of them. So that's my take. So next here we have the Warlock class. So along with the Wizard class, this is probably one of the best classes in the enchantment section for this entire set. For one black, if a creature dies, they lose one life. It only happens once, but that's still one life. Plus, for 2 mana, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, pick one, put two in your graveyard. That kind of card selection normally comes at a higher cost than this. Um, it's just amazing. Like, there's nothing better than like putting a Warlock class down, hitting it for two, flipping your hand open and going, oh, I have 3 land in my hand. There's 3 land on top of my deck. I'll take the 1 land I need, put two in my graveyard. I just went 3 cards deep and passed a land pocket. I can't tell you the number of times I've done that in black and just loved it. And if I pick up 3 cards and they're all really good, it's really simple. Because you have so much graveyard stuff that you can get stuff back from the graveyard with, you don't have a fear of putting stuff in your graveyard. You don't care. Um, Also, if you draw up and you have the card in your hand that says, hey, get a card out of your graveyard as a creature, you take the one that gets a creature out of your graveyard, put the rest in the graveyard, because then you just get the creature out of your graveyard, eventually in the dungeon, and you still have the creature. Like, there's so many upsides to this. This is one of the best cards. The only card better than this is the blue one, which is the Wizards class. It just the whole, yeah, this is right on par with it. And the ability for them to lose a life whenever a creature dies is probably better. So this is close to better than the Wizard class. And I would play this every time I had it. Plus, if you get it to 7, then it's just game over. And finally, we have Hive of the Eye Tyrant. Obviously, if you have this land and you're playing black, it best be in your deck. I mean, 4 mana for a 3/3 Black Beholder that has Menace, and when you attack with it, you get to exile cards from your opponent's graveyard, is just house. It stops recursion, it stops all kinds of silly nonsense. This is a great card. You definitely should be playing it, and it's a man land, and it's cheap, 4 mana. I mean, what more do you want in life, right? So, with that said, guys, that's the Back in Black edition of Forgotten Realms Limited and Sealed Draft. Tell me what you think down below in your comments. Do I got it right? Do I got it wrong? Let me know. Help feed that YouTube algorithm. And as always, I'll see you guys this weekend across the table drafting at the actual release event for Forgotten Realms. And stay tuned. Next couple of videos are going to be all about green and red. And we know how much you guys love to rule it up. So, talk to you guys then. And until next time, be kind.